watching Thrifty Kaniffy. Hello everyone and welcome to Thrifty Kaniffy. We're going to be taking a look at an Uncle Henry knife today. This one brought to us by American Outdoor Brands. Thanks for sending that along, AOB. We're going to be looking at the model number 1136004, and that is just the new model number. They've designated the 897UH because it has next-gen Stockman handles. So here is the box, and here is the knife we're going to be looking at. And not only are we going to be reviewing this knife, but we're also going to be doing something a little special with this one. We're going to be comparing it to an old Schrade-Walden design. It's the same knife. It's the 897UH, which is premium Stockman. Right, 3 blades. You've got the clip point, the sheep's foot, and the spay blades. This one with the new next-gen Stockman handles is the new one, and we're going to take a look at it first. We've got nickel silver bolsters, nickel silver pins, nickel silver shield. Got the stamped Uncle Henry logo there on the shield, on the bomb shield. And one thing I note about the shield is it looks like maybe there's a little bit of a bend in it here, and it goes up. Almost like it was pressed in there too hard and it bent or something. But it's in there well. It's not going to come out. It's smooth to the handle. It just seems like within the shield itself, maybe there's a little bit of a bend in it. You've got these nice next-gen Stockman handles, which I'm a fan of. Only problem with that is that they've got a little bit of a 90-degree edge on either side at the top and bottom that I would prefer to have rounded off a little bit. But you have good smooth transitions to these nickel silver bolsters. The pins are nice and smooth. Now this one is a little proud, but it's intentionally that way. It's just the way they're constructed. And then you have, again, a nice smooth transition on this side. This side of the handle, same thing. Just nice and smooth. Nickel silver bolsters to the handle. A good coloring on the grooves and all the jigging that they do. Looks pretty nice. So I'm a fan of the way that they design their new handles. One thing though I do not like necessarily about this knife is that the edges of these tangs are exposed and they're quite sharp. You have this one exposed on this side and then obviously the two exposed on this side. And you can see that if we compare that to the older Schrade-Walden, that they did a better job of keeping those tangs down into the cavity of the knife so that it did not catch on your pocket. Just makes for a better presentation, cleaner look to the knife. Just looks like a little more thought was put into how large they made the kicks on the knives, and everything just seems to fit a little better. But I will say that the blade thickness on this one is a little beefier than on the older knife. These tuck in pretty nicely. You don't have any problems with blade rub. There's no blades catching on the close and open. Now, of course, with any Stockman, you may have some push rub as you try to open a blade, but you know, that's just something you have to kind of concentrate on, trying to open the blade straight upward rather than pushing inward. Now we'll start off with this clip blade. We've got the Uncle Henry tang stamp on it there with the date below it, which is 12/21, which is a date code for when this was made, December of 2021. And you got some nice clean grinds on the edges here that look very nice. Pretty impressive for a knife of this price. You've got a nice pull on the blade, no half stops. The nail nick is nice and clean, makes it easy to get hold of. And again, about a 7 on the pull. Nice snap on the close and the open. Good walk and talk for that clip blade. The sheep's foot blade is also got a nice pull to it. I'd say maybe about a 6 on it, a little less than the main blade. And I'd say about a 7 on the spay blade. Now comparing the two knives, these are both 3.5-inch closed knives. Again, you get the older Stockman here, but with these older Schrade-Waldens, I've noticed that the white on the handle is much more pronounced than when they got into the 80s and these handles were much more yellow in color. And I'm thinking that might be why, or what inspired them to go back to this next gen handles is more of a white color. Now obviously it's not as white as this, it's more of a cream, but it's definitely not as yellow as you'll see when these knives get into the 80s for certain. They're much more yellow. Almost look like they've been exposed to the sun and yellowed or something. And but the handle material, feel of it, just not ever been a huge fan of this sort of a rubberish feeling handle. I do prefer the harder material that they use for the newer knife. Now if we look at the tangs on the older blade, you can see that the kick is pretty tight to where the blade edge is. If we look at the newer knife, you can see there's much more of a pronounced kick there, and that probably is responsible for why so much of that tang is exposed when you have it closed there. So it's just really just a question of how they designed the blades. They are a little bit different in shape, you can see. Now this one's been, sharpened, I'm sure, numerous times, but even still, you can tell that there's a more pronounced upward sweep on the edge of the blade than there is on this one. It's much more gradual. So they aren't exactly the same. And you wouldn't expect them to be some, 50 years later. So, yeah, there's going to be some differences there. Chinese made. And they did not use the same tooling. I'm pretty sure that the tooling went away when Schrade sold the company. They sold the name, but they didn't sell the tooling. I think that went to someone else. So the Chinese made knives do not have the same tooling, so they're going to be a little different. But overall, I think this is a really well designed knife. You got a few little quirks there. If you don't mind the edginess of those tangs sticking up, then everything else seems to be pretty well in order. You got good blade edges. These are 7CR17 mauve and stainless steel. These Schrade-Walden were also stainless, so even though primarily the blade material of the day was using 1095, these actually were using the Schrade Plus, or the stainless material at the time. So I imagine that they are, somewhat similar in steel types. Now it doesn't specify what exactly the stainless is, but I'm assuming it's probably something pretty similar to the 7CR. So you have, like the carbon style springs maybe here. I'm not sure, but you get the perforated style cuts on the brass liners on these. So there are some rough edges still on these old knives. Not everything in the American made was perfect either. So, when I hear you guys complain about the Chinese ones being so much inferior, that isn't necessarily the case. I mean, if you look at that, the perforating on the cut there, they didn't do that here. So, I mean, there's some advantages to having the newer one too. Not that everything is going to be great and rosy all the way around, and I would definitely admit that the profile of this is more refined, and you definitely have something that looks like there's a little more attention paid to the detail, the way those blades are exposed. But overall, very quality and solid knife, and one that you can get at an affordable price. And this is what they call their premium Stockman, and they do a pretty good job. And this is obviously going to be a great size for pocket carry, or if you have a problem with the the exposed parts of the blade, you can always put it in a slip. And this is probably a little big for this particular one, but you get an idea of what can be done. Just putting it in a slip kind of prevents that rub on your pocket and so forth. So there you have it, guys. Old and new 897 Uncle Henry Premium Stockmans. Hope you enjoyed the review. Make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell to be made aware of videos when they drop. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and do take care.